Hi, I'm Danielle Colley, integrative life coach and author and creator of The Chocolate Bar Life. A little while ago, I was in the depths of a home renovation that we were living in while a multitude of builders and sparkies and plumbers all banged around us all day. I work from home too, so I was right up in it for 6 months. I was also perimenopausal, and that hormonal shift in my brain was playing havoc with my mental health, and coincidentally it tipped me off that I was living with undiagnosed ADHD, and I was going through the really laborious process of getting myself assessed for that. My preteen and teenage kids were both having issues that required a lot of my energy. They had some mental health stuff and some school stuff and social stuff, and this made me wonder if they also needed to be assessed and if I had somehow missed something really important in their development. And they say that you're only ever as happy as your unhappiest child. So helping them with their struggles was a matter of urgency for me. My beautiful mum, who lives in another state, has a degenerative disease. She was having a tough time. Helping her navigate the next phase of her life was important to me, as her comfort is important to me. A few things had shifted in my life coaching business. There was a big change in my team, a change in the overall economy, and I had put myself under a lot of pressure to make it work how I thought it should be. And I began to question not my coaching ability, but my ability to run a business and everything that entails. And that's a lot on my plate all at once, right? I was in it, and it was a really tough time. And each of these things individually required all of my attention and care, and my brain got completely overloaded with everything that was on my plate, and my brain went on the fritz. But everyone has a lot on their plate. Living in this day and age has become a complex juggle of competing priorities, a constant bombardment of information and messaging and a frenetic pace, which leaves you feeling like you never have enough time to do everything that needs to be done. The concept of the chocolate bar life came through my work with high-performing individuals who constantly found themselves in this cycle of inspiration where they're nailing it and they're doing all of the things and they're juggling busy careers and even busier lives, and then they're hitting autopilot and cruising, but they're sprinting on a treadmill until they realize far too late that they're exhausted. They're totally over everything and they're hitting burnout town. It's a space I know intimately, having done it a number of times. If you came to this program because you read my book, The Chocolate Bar Life, then you have heard some of my experiences with the mess that can be ambition and proving your worth and success at any cost. You would have received real-life stories from my clients who also struggled with this, and you gain insights into the neuroscience plus the practical suggestions on how to unravel all of this so that you can create a life of holistic success or whole life success, not just career success, so that you can live in a way that feels good to you. At least most of the time, because life is still going to be life, right? But if you've come directly to this program without reading the book, then you're about to take this concept of the chocolate bar life and learn how to put it into practice so you can gain the tools needed to see it work in reality for you in your unique circumstances. Sometimes you read a self-development book and you think that was great, and then you put it on a shelf, nothing changes. This is your guide to that not happening here. I invite you to understand what's creating this pattern of pushing yourself beyond your edges over and over and unravel it once and for all. When my first marriage ended 10 years ago, I was a stay-at-home mum with 2 kids under 4. I had no money of my own in the bank and I was driven by fear. I knew I was quite handy with words, so I became a writer, writing health, well-being and relationship articles for some of Australia's largest print and online publications. But the instability of the freelance world was a roller coaster. I'd tap dance on a Monday morning, pulling all my ideas out and sending them off to editors, hoping they'd think I was awesome. And if nothing got picked up, then it meant that I wasn't awesome and I would panic, and then sometimes everything would get picked up and I would have more work than I had time. That also made me panic. The first issue I had was imposter syndrome because I had hustled my way into this career with 0 qualifications other than ferocious tenacity, curiosity, and Grammarly. I didn't really feel like I was a real writer, a journalist. And secondly, my metrics for success gave me anxiety either way. I decided that the antidote to this was getting some stability in a publication that gave me some credibility, because what others thought of me was incredibly important. So I set myself the goal to get a job at a magazine, which I did. I got a job in the digital department of the seminal Aussie women's magazine of my youth, the Australian Women's Weekly. And for a one-time mummy blogger at her dining room table, I felt like I'd made it. And I loved that job. I loved working with those super smart women and being inspired, being in that space. But fast forward a year or so, and although I wasn't exactly fired, there was a major change in upper management. And one Friday afternoon, I was told to go home and someone would give me a call. But no one called. For 3 weeks, I tried to get in contact with people, and I finally got the message. I'd been ghosted. I was a failure. I really struggled with that fall, partly because it was handled terribly, but also because so much of my identity had become wrapped up in the idea of who I thought I needed to be to feel validated and worthy in my profession. I really began to question myself and my capabilities. But rather than exploring that really icky business of processing those feelings, I thought I'd just set myself another goal, just push on through. Do you ever do that? Rather than allowing yourself the space and time to process what you need to, you just keep on going. I set a goal to climb the highest freestanding mountain in the world for charity to raise money for an orphanage in Kenya. And I hate the cold and I really hate camping. So this particular goal was going to require a lot of grit. And I set to it with great gusto. I trained my butt off. I was getting up in the morning and I was putting on a backpack full of books and schlepping around the hills of my local suburb before my kids got out of bed. I also would train in an altitude tank in the afternoon, and on weekends I would walk in national parks for hours. I was the fittest that I was ever going to be. I was ready. But what I failed to mention to anyone was that I was completely emotionally and physically burnt out. I had been running on empty for a number of years. I had been running on adrenaline, cortisol, fear. I was pretty much cooked. I was going on this solo adventure for my 40th birthday. It was to challenge myself and to mark this momentous life stage. That was the official line. But really, I was praying for an epiphany. I imagined myself on the top of that mountain with some kind of cosmic download coming down and telling me what I was supposed to be doing with my life, what was my purpose, because I was so deeply, profoundly lost and unhappy. The trek itself was easy enough day to day, but the summit night was a deeply challenging and humbling experience. 9 of us set out that night, and we lost one in the first hour. By lost, I don't mean she died. It wasn't anything dramatic. She just turned around. It was too hard. It was a mental game as much as a physical one. You had to be on top of that little voice in your head telling you that it was too hard, that you were too cold. And my God, it was cold. I had a little voice even saying, who do you think you are? You're a suburban mum of 2 gallivanting up a goddamn mountain for larks in the middle of the night. I became sick. The altitude wreaked havoc on my guts, and I was done. Leave me here, I said. I sat down dramatically, crying, just leave me here. You can pick me up on the way back down. But our leader said, I can't leave you here. You'll freeze to death. Before we can get there and back, you'll die. He said, I've watched you though over the last 5 days and I know that you can do this. He gave me a sip of water and a jelly bean and he pulled me up and on we went. I have to tell you, I had 0 epiphanies, but I saw the sun rise over the curve of the earth on what was the longest night of my entire life. And I knew that everything was going to be okay because I was a success. I'd done it. It can be easy to do that sometimes. Equate your wins and achievements as who you are. Your judgment of yourself relies on your outcome. I am a success or I'm a failure, as opposed to the thing I did was successful or didn't turn out how I hoped. I knew I needed to make some big changes in my life because I was constantly thinking about work. I was drinking too much. I was exhausted, but so hepped up on stress that I couldn't slow down. And then someone said to me, you need your life to be more like a Mars bar. Remember that jingle from when we were kids? A Mars a day helps you work, rest, and play. I needed to have more of a balance of work, rest, and play. But I was so busy as a solo mum paying a mortgage, I had no idea how to actually do it. I tried to push through. But after the death of my father, I was so grief-struck and lost that I couldn't deny it anymore. I retrained as an integrative life coach, and that experience of shaping first my own life and then countless lives of others who I worked with in my one-on-one work, in my group programs, and my leadership events, guiding people to create lives that feel good to live and not just look good from the outside. And that's what we're here to do in this program. And know that learning at once might not be enough because life sneaks up on you. But learning at once gives you the tools and the knowledge to return to over and over when you need it most. Until one day it's just second nature. And even I'm still working on that part. But where are you right now? What do you think? Do you think balance is bullshit? Because I'm going to guide you to understand how to regulate your emotions and nourish your nervous system, create a more expansive diary giving you back the gift of time, and help you to prioritize more of the things that make your life feel more yummy. Are you ready for your chocolate bar life? Let's do this.